All right, so my thought for today is actually about doing Tai Chi outside. So I was thinking about all the ways that you can apply the principles of Tai Chi, and I'm going to approach today's class from that perspective. And Scarlett was just saying she came back from a hike. So one of the things about Tai Chi is there's a way of walking that puts power into your step, which is fantastic if you're doing that uphill climb. But then you have the second part, which is when you come back down from that climb, how you support your knees in doing a proper movement. So I'll talk a little bit about that as well. And hopefully that'll give you some Tai Chi tools that you can actually apply in your daily activities and then start to create the atmosphere of what it means in your life. So is everybody okay with that? Yeah, awesome, good. Okay, so I am not pinned, but maybe Shreya or Alexis, you could just pin me so everybody can see, and then I'll still have the thumbnails at the top, which is great. So I'll be able to see. Perfect. Thank you. Okay, so let's get started with commencement, and you can do any of this seated. So if somebody's watching and they can't do anything standing, it is fantastic seated. It is not cheating, because a lot of people will think that they're doing less than, and actually they're doing more. So us people who stand always think that's better, but it's actually seated is great. So I just want to emphasize that, because a lot of people think that then, you know, they're not good enough, but you are. Okay, so feet shoulder width apart. And what we're going to do is just the commencement and just bring flow into the body, and also bring the breath into fullness, I guess is the best way to say that. So you're going to push down into the feet and engage with the floor, and then just let the arms float as a result of that. And then let that go. And it's going to sink back down. So in the workshop on Wednesday night, where we were playing with the energy ball and having so much fun, we did this exercise, but we added a couple little pieces to it. So I'm going to bring that in because it's wonderful for awareness. So just getting that breath to come in and then let it go. And then bring the breath in and let it go. Key thing would be not to get the hands too high. It's really easy for them to go over your head as they start to float, but they'll only go as high as your shoulder. Very nice and gentle. Okay, what I'm going to do with this one, take the breath in. And as the hands come down, this time I want you to connect your hands to your feet, just in your mind. And we'll just leave the palms facing towards the floor, and just the connection of the foot to the hands. And some may notice that as a link of kind of buzzing in the hands and the feet. Some people may notice it as their lower back tries to push towards the floor. There's like an opening in the lower back. Some people notice their knees have a little bit more give, a little bit more buoyancy. Some people notice that their feet, the weight shifts on their foot and it starts to even out across the sides of the feet. So the weight is equal, I'll say, on the inside of the foot to the outside of the foot. And for those of us who like to push in a little bit more on the big toe than the little toe, sometimes it'll even out. Okay, so that was one of the exercises we did for awareness in the Raising Bioenergetic Awareness series. So now if you take that breath up, I want you to just stop your hands when they get towards the top, and there's going to be a shift right here where your elbow drops and the fingertips go out. That is a change of energy. And then there'll be a downward motion, which is a softening of the wrists and the elbows, and then that connection down to the floor. So there's 4 parts. So you have the rise, you have the extension, you have the transition to down, and the connection to the floor. Those 4 pieces are different ways that the energy is engaged within us and starts to transition us. So if we bring that breath in again, you may notice that the breath might have slowed down now, might be a little bit softer, and sink. And that is really important for making sure you have that energy flowing in through your feet and it's yours down into the ground. And if you're outside on the grass, you may notice your connection to the earth. You may notice what it feels like to be standing on the ground. If you're on wood on your deck, what the wood feels like underneath your feet. All of that provides you with the opportunity of being grounded. And that means energy from other people doesn't have to affect you. And then just let that come down. One more. And sink. Okay, so that's commencement. You can do the same thing seated. And when your hands come down, you can always place your hands right on your knees and just make that connection right down to your feet. And sometimes you'll notice quite a bit buzzing through the knees, and you're really engaging the knees in the process. That's a little bit different when you're seated. Okay, so we have that just to get that breath started. And last week, we worked a little bit on the grass bird's tail, and we worked on our hands passing and the extensions coming through with the hands. So we're going to do a little bit more of that, but we're also going to expand it a little bit into what you can do with the trees outside and the grass. So I'm going to do the movement patterns, the first 17 moves from the Tai Chi set. And I'd like you to follow me and do the very best you can. Anything that's you're not quite sure of, forget about it. I just want to get that whole movement pattern there so you can see it. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to dive into that grass bird's tail sequence. Okay, so I'm going to put my camera down just a little bit more so you can catch my feet better. Hopefully that'll do it. Okay, and that should get it there. And I know you can't see my hands because of the brightness. So I'll just grab the gloves again. Hopefully that helps. Okay. So first thing we're going to do is for the ladies, the right hand is going to grab the left thumb. Gentlemen, it'll be the left hand grabbing the right thumb. And our hands come together. They end up in a yin yang symbol. And we're just going to take that forward. Pushing into your feet just allows you to roll back up. Tailbone's going to drop to the floor and help line up your spine. We do one commencement, hands float, let that come back down. And now we're going to take our right hand and our right foot and turn to the right and reach that out. Hold the ball, left is underneath. We're going to step with the left foot into the corner. That's left grass bird's tail. Hold the ball with the right underneath. And now we go right hand. So we go out, pull back, palm to palm, open, two hands, that comes back. And now we're going to turn that right foot around to face the other way, pull your hands around in a curve, and then you're going to make a cone with your right hand. And then push your left hand out. That's called whip to one side. We're going to turn, facing back to the front, right heel goes out, and sink. Drop your right hand, turn your right foot, and you're just going to glide across to the front, and then turn your right hand up to the ceiling, left hand to the floor. That's going to turn a light bulb at the top. Some of you might recognize that from, I think, last week as well. Brush knee left. Half a step. Left heel goes out this time. Strum the pei pa. Open the right hand. Brush knee left. Twist step. brush knee right. Now you might recognize this from last week working on the brush knees and ward off monkey. Here's another brush knee. Half a step and the heel goes out. Sink. Open the hand. Brush knee left. Then you're going to hold a whole bunch of flowers up to the left. And I'm just going to move back so you can see me a little bit better. Step with your right foot. And it's going to go in, out, slide, step through, and punch. We're going to wipe underneath the arm. 2 hands go out, up over the top, turn and turn, sink, cross the hands in the front, and we're going to finish. Sink. So that's 17 moves. That lovely little sequence opens up all the energy lines in the body. So there's flow happening all the way through. Okay, so I'm going to do it one more time. Just kind of get into the feel of where I'm moving and just let your body just be really soft, deep breath. So I'm going to go commencement again. Turn your right hand to the right and reach out. Hold the ball. Left grass bird's tail. Hold the ball. This goes fingertip, wipe past, palms go towards each other, open the hands, 2 hands go out, comes back, turn all the way around, whip to one side, make a cone on your right hand, and then reach out. Into your right, put your right heel out, and sink. So just open the back. Foot, hand comes down, and we're going to go across, and then we're going to separate heaven and earth, make a nice link with our hands. Turn your hand at the top. This is going to sweep all the way around. Brush knee. Half a step, heel goes out. Sink. Open. Brush knee. Turn. Brush knee. Turn. Brush knee. Half a step, heel goes out. Just hold that spot. I'm just going to back up again. And then we're going to go open, brush knee left. Here goes hold the flowers. So we turn our foot to the left. We come up, step through, in, out, sink, step through and punch. Wipe the sleeve. 2 hands. Comes around. Left toe, right heel. Sink. Cross the hands and stand on your left foot. Just adjust your right foot. Open and sink. So when we do the set, we always begin with a bow and end with a bow. Since we're finished running through the set, we're only going to do the 17. We're going to bring that hand back around in the front. Add in the bow, and that is gratitude. We are grateful for all the people in the thousands of years who passed Tai Chi to us, and for all those who own the knowledge now and can pass it forward. Okay, so with that, we have now opened up all the energy lines in the body, so there's a flow and a pattern of flow. So it helps the body to find balance and to start to do the healing work. And commencement here, this little piece here, will do a similar action. And then when we start turning in the feet and the body, that starts to set up the cycle of energy that comes through. Okay, last day, the week before we had done the grass bird's tail. Last week we did the brush knees, and then we did ward off monkey coming backwards. So I'm just bringing that back to your head if you were here. If you weren't here, there's a recording. You're welcome to watch it. That will give you beautiful little piece to play with. So now what I'm going to do is take some of the knowledge of both of those pieces and apply to what we can use outside in the garden. One is the toyu. And the toyu is a wonderful way to build energy. And we use it in the grassbird's tail. So that was the one where we went like this with our hands and went back and forth. This little piece here. And what's happening down here in the feet is the part that I'm going to focus on. That's called toyu. And toyu is really how you shift from one foot to the other foot and where you place your weight and how you connect. So let's start off with the first piece of it, which would be if you put your feet together and then you drop down onto both knees. You just want to make sure you don't drop down and put your hip forward. You're going to drop down and put your hip back. So it's like you were going to sit down into a chair, but it would be a very high chair. And then you're going to take your right foot and you're going to turn it to the corner and step back. Now you'll notice my weight is still in the front and I've just placed it at the back. That's how far apart you would want your legs to go. So if I come back here, see if I do it at a different angle. So I'm going to sink back. So my knees are going to stay behind my toes when I do that, which means that my knees are not going to hold me up. The legs are going to hold me up. And then I just take my foot and place it back. And now I can push from the front foot into the back foot, from the back foot into the front foot. And that little massage that we put into the foot is providing, for those that have done reflexology, you know that the entire body is on the bottom of the foot. So you're massaging all on the bottom of the foot by this movement pattern. From an electrical perspective, we also have our bubbling springs, the center of our foot, which fires up all the systems in the body. And our massaging back and forth in those two pieces, the bubbling springs from one foot down into the other, means we are giving a little pulse into all the systems and just gently saying, hey, wake up, come into flow. And that's what we're doing by going back and forth. Okay, so that's what's happening on our feet in that little action. And you can see I'm not too far apart. The second part is we have something going on with our hips. So when we go to sit back into the back leg, we want to sit like we were going to sit into a chair. That's that one-legged sit. We had 2 feet when we started. Now we're on one. Then when we push out of the foot, the hip is going to come up and we have a turn that we can do inside this hip to turn us around to face the front here. And if you think of the hips as headlights, those headlights are going to go straight forward and you're just going to line everything up square. Your knee is going to stay behind your toes. So when you look down, you can see your foot underneath and your knee is nowhere near your toes. The other is your knee will track with your second toe. So some people, me being one of them, when I'm not paying attention, my knee tracks wide. And that puts stress on the whole inside of the knee. So this helps to figure out how to get your alignment right and how to engage the muscles with proper alignment. Okay, so if I'm here and I sink back to sit into this back leg, I'm going to sink back like I want to sit in the chair, push up, turn, square, and sink into it. When I look down, my knee should be tracking with my second toe and my hip bones are going to be lined up straight forward. Okay, so by now your foot's probably screaming at you. So let's put them together and we'll change feet. Okay, so you can do the same thing. Sink back like you were going to sit into a chair. Place the foot back on an angle. And then you're going to sink back into that foot and forward into the front. And you're going to let your hips come around so both hip bones line up to the front. You may notice if you have a tight back, your lower back might be saying, what are you doing? and it doesn't want to let go. That's telling you where some of the tension might be holding. So what we want to do is just very gently give that reminder into the feet. Everything is safe. We're connected to the ground. You can relax. The back can open. Everything is safe. So we're just going back and forth, nice and gentle. Okay. Hip bones are going to line up. And then when you come back, they kind of go to the corner. Not very far. Some people like to come up and turn. Excuse me. If they turn too far, there's going to be a torque on the knee. So your body's just going into the corner. That's it. And it's high sit, so you're not going too far down on the leg. And there should be no pain in your knee at all. If there is, you know you don't have the alignment quite right. And then you just have to play with getting the alignment right. Okay. So now let's add some hands. So the hands are going to come forward, elbows down. And then the hands, like I showed you with the commencement at the beginning, the fingers go to point out. They come back across. So the right hand, my right foot is in front. So my right hand is going to go on the cross. And then the elbows line up, hands separate and come forward. So we have extension of the fingers, cross the hand, open, elbows underneath, expand. So we've got cross, open, expand. Cross, open, expand. Okay, so let's try the other foot, because I know you're probably feeling it. So we'll go feet back together, sink, place the foot, add your hands. Okay, and I'm going to come back this time, cross over. My left hand is coming across because it's my left foot that's forward this time. And reach. Push back. And reach. And cross. And reach. Beautiful. Okay, so this is the Toyu. If you have tight lower legs, your calf muscle will often scream at you because it's trying to hold you up. And if that's the case, you may just have to stop and give it a second to release. If people have imbalanced hormones, very often the lower leg muscles will cramp up and be too tight. So this is a good way to try to balance things by finding out how to release all that tension. And if your body's kind of used to trying to hold you up with muscle patterns that aren't helpful, very often it's the calf muscle that's trying to do the hold. And even though you're standing up and it doesn't need to be engaged, it feels like it needs to be the boss. So that's a beautiful pattern to start to change that. So let's link this to the great outdoors and imagine your feet are now in the grass. And imagine you have a tree somewhere in your vicinity that maybe kind of appeals to you, or you notice it every day. And maybe when you look out the window, there's one tree that's kind of predominant in your yard. What we're going to do is we're going to connect to that tree, and we're going to do our Toyu to the tree and then away from the tree. Okay, so if you're inside at the moment, imagine one of the trees that's in your yard or in your community that you really enjoy. Maybe there's a really large tree somewhere that you want to connect with. I know, Scarlett, when you were on last week, maybe earlier this week, you were underneath a very old tree, which had a lot of history. So that might be one to pull in. Did you have something, Alexis? Nope. Okay, she's good. All right. So I'm just turning myself now because then I can see outside. And what I'm going to do is just connect to, I have an ash tree outside, and I'm just going to connect to it. So I'm going to put my feet together, sink down, and then I'm going to take my left foot and I'm going to put it back and bring my hands forward. And my hands going forward is to connect to the tree, just to say hello to it. And then I'm going to just pull away from the tree and I'm going to come back to the tree. And push away. If your feet are in the grass, then you may notice your connection to the ground. And you may notice that by connecting to the tree, you may have some tension in your body that has let go, just by making that connection with nature. And I'm laughing as I say that because as much as I do this constantly, my back was a little tight facing you, and now it's just completely let go. As soon as I said I was going to connect to the ash tree, it's too funny. And we just go back and forth. Now, if you look this up in Qigong books, where they explore how the energy is exchanged, you'll see diagrams. As you connect with the tree, the energy goes out the top of your head and connects to the top of the tree and goes down the trunk and then comes through the ground up through your feet. So you'll see diagrams where there's this beautiful circle of energy that gets created going from the top of your head to the top of the tree. And it can be reversed in that it can go down into the ground, up the tree, down in your head. So depending which way you want to connect. Okay, let that go. All right, and let's just see what happens to the other side now. You've made your connection with the tree. Maybe you've thought about the grass. Sink down on the leg, put the other foot back this time. And let's just see if there's a balance between how this side feels compared to the other side. And then just notice if there's a shift in the lower back, or maybe the arms, or the effort. And very often you'll feel a difference between the two sides. That just tells you where it's not balanced in movement or in alignment. And then you know you have somewhere to work, which is great. Awareness is key. All right. So I don't know if you'll be able to hear, but my stomach has started to gurgle, which tells me I finally relaxed enough that all of the organs inside are starting to shift around, getting a little massage. And let that go. Let's just do one more. And out. Beautiful. Okay. Now that one I have had a love-hate relationship with, because on the times when my lower back has been really, really tight, it is not a comfortable thing to do. So I can say that, and and doing it, I didn't like it. However, if that's the case where it's really tight, that is telling you something, because then the alignment is so tight and stiff that you're not getting free flow. So that is an indicator. In that case, maybe do 5. Do 5 on the other side and walk away. And eventually that will shift, but you'll be able to use that as your barometer, that if it's tight, you definitely need to be doing something to loosen that up. Okay, so let's do a foundation exercise. And this is going to be for the center part. They call it the belt channel. There's one energy circle that goes around the middle that links everything up from the top to the bottom. And it starts to relay messages. If that lower back is tight, that belt channel is going to be blocked up, which means then you're not going to get messaging the way you want. So let's do a little bit of an exercise to help that. So this one, the hand is at a 90-degree angle. Sorry, I'll move in so you can actually see my hand. Okay, and the palm is towards your ear. The other hand is just going to be doing this kind of an action, coming through, and the palm is going to be facing the back. And what I'm going to do, I'm just going to move back so you can see my feet better. Not that you can see my feet because they're the same color as the floor. Sorry, I gave up my socks and forgot that, you know, I'll blend in with the floor. Okay, there we go. Now you can see my feet. All right, so here's the hand. Here's the other one. I'm going to push down into, in this case, it's my right hand and my right foot. So I'm just going to give a little bit of pressure into my right foot. My tailbone will drop, and then I'll be able to move from the spine to the other corner. So my body's just facing to the corner. I change hands. So this one is going towards my ear, and then pushing into my left foot. I can have a whole rotation moving me to the corner on the other side. So we change hands, push into the right foot, comes around, push into the left foot, crack, crack, crack. Don't know if anybody heard their own backs. Push into the right foot, comes around, push into the left foot, comes back. Okay, now that's the action. Many people will see my hands look like they're moving like this, but what's moving actually is my center. It's turning and then it's turning back, and it's not actually my hands. So if you watch my hands, I'll just turn a little bit. If you watch my hands, they actually didn't do anything. All I did was push a little bit of weight down into my right foot, just a tiny bit, and that allowed the spine rotation. And then I changed hands. Push into the left. There's the rotation. Change hands. Push into the right. Change hands. It's like an illusion. So you're hardly doing anything. It's all in the spine. Change hands. And turn. Change hands. All right, so now, if you're in the great outdoors, you imagine the breeze, the sun shining on you, your connection to the ground. And if you imagine now that you're the grass, we have a field out behind us. So you can imagine those stalks of grass nice and tall, waving in the wind. This is the spiral action. It's nice and free.
Michelle, can I ask a question?
Soft. Yeah, go for it, Tanya.
So I'm doing it seated just because my knees are complaining a little, but when I do this, does it matter the speed? Like, is it better to go slow? Like, because I feel an urge to go fast and I'm thinking that's not wise. Can you tell me about that?
That's a good question. If the mind is going quick, that'll probably be the faster. And I know you're at work, so that's possible. If you go quicker, that'll be muscle memory, which is fine. And the spine will get the turning in it. And all you need is the vertebra to just do the tiny little turn, which sends information out to every muscle and every organ system. So that's all you need. So that would be okay. If you had parts in the back that were tight, the slower you go, the deeper you go into the tissue, and the body has the opportunity to say, I can let go. So it doesn't mean you have to go micro movements. That would be pretty slow, but you definitely can take it just a little bit softer, and you'll probably feel in the back, different muscles engage, and you might even feel some stuttering in some muscles. And that slowness will allow them to go, hey, I wasn't working there. Next time I'll be ready. And so then you can't
That
slow
is a
it.
good point, how our spines and our minds can be aligned. That's a good
Yes.
point.
Yes. Thank you for that. And this one is really beautiful. If you're waiting for the kettle to boil, this is a lovely one to just kind of get into, and you kind of lose track of what else is going on while the kettle's boiling, and sink. Yeah. Okay. Taking that same idea, I'm hoping I've put myself on the right angle. So as I come across, I can notice right in the middle where the pelvis does a little bit of a shift. And then when I get towards where I'm going to change hands, it's almost like I sink a tiny little bit. And then as the palms change, the pelvis is going to change. So when I go to come back, there's a different alignment that I'm working with because of my hands. And right as I come across here, it's like there's this free moment, and then sink down into the leg. And then if I'm coming back, it's a push, and then all of a sudden there's freedom and sink. So you get to almost float for a moment. I think we talked about last week, the position of the palms changes the position of the pelvis as well as shoulder and jaw. So as you notice, this one is a palm down, this one is up to the side. So as you're coming across, that's putting all of the bones in a particular position, but then you change them. And this is allowing for a shift to happen in all the tissue through the hip. So this is where Tanya's question is so beautiful, because if you have some tension in your hip, I don't know anybody that doesn't. You'd have to be pretty zen. All right, this gives you the opportunity to really change anywhere where it's too tight and causing an imbalance, or too loose, and it needs to engage in the conversation. So it's really delightful. And you may notice, if you did this before you went on a hike, as an example, when you've got the spine turning and you've woken up all the different muscle groups, you may notice the power in the foot is different before you start doing a climb or a drop. Comes around.
I also wanted to mention, Michelle, that sometimes if you have lower body issues, like my dad with his MS and my mom with her paralysis when they were alive, as much as possible, I would try to get them to rotate their spine even a little, even if I would get them to, weird as it sounds, just lean over to hug me or anything that would kind of get them to move a bit, because mobility was such an issue. So that's, I find that's a great exercise for people who have lower extremity issues too.
Yes, thank you. That's great. Because sometimes we do line ourselves up to go straight in, not thinking about that if we just made them work just a little bit more, that they had to engage. Exactly. And if I take it to seated, if you're standing, that's okay. I'll just do the seated part here. And
Yes, Shannon, thank you.
yeah, for memory, absolutely. Rotation for memory. If you're doing the seated version, you're sitting away from the chair so that you're not leaning on it. And you still put the weight into the foot. And you still are doing the same action, but you don't have this balancing on your feet piece. So you can really get to know your back a little bit more, just because you have one less thing you have to worry about and balance and hold yourself up. So that's what the seated would look like. And you're not turning very far. And it's that tiny little bit of engagement into the foot that drops the tailbone and lines the spine up straight, so you can get turning all the way through it. Yeah. Okay. So let's leave that and let's go to walking. It's a little difficult to do. I don't have a step in here. However, if you were hiking, when you go to place your foot to go up the hill, you actually want to push from the foot at the back. So you're going to be down in the leg. You're going to push out of the leg to go into the next step. And then you're on this leg, you're going to push out of that leg to go to the next step. A lot of people will climb to go up an incline by trying to lift their leg up to the next piece, which means they're getting the quad muscle to grip. And so they'll try to do that up this way, but it's actually push from underneath and you'll go. Push from underneath and you'll go. All right, so I'll give you that idea and then you can try it on stairs. It's beautiful for stairs. And there is a video on my YouTube channel under the Tai Chi Wellness playlist. So Michelle Greenwell, dance debut, and there's a playlist called Tai Chi Wellness. And there's one just on how to do the stairs. So that would be one way to go hiking. If you're coming down off the hike and you got to come down, a lot of people will jar their knee to come down the hike and they'll fall into their feet. But instead, what you do is you lower yourself on the back leg and you push off the back leg into the front leg. And that push off means that your legs are totally engaged and your knees are not catching you on the downward fall, which can be hard on some people's legs. Okay, so I'll just give you that. And that's all Tai Chi principle in there, is that right from your toyu, that push. And right here will be over, go down, over, go down, over. And I'm doing in slow motion, which you could do when you're tired on the hike, but you'll start to develop the patterning that it just automatically comes in. Okay, so let's work a little bit with the feet and let's do a walk through the foot. So I know we're coming around to the hour. This is really wonderful for, same thing, when you're out walking, you can change the way you're walking. So I'm in our low cup set, we have this piece where we rise up onto the balls of the feet, step and then sink. So that's what I'm going to show you. So if you walk forward, you're going to go heel to toe. You're going to rise up into the balls of both feet, transfer your weight to the front, step into the next foot, and then sink down into that leg. So I'll do that again. So we go up, step, sink. Okay. Now in Tai Chi, everything is whole body. It's a lot better if you use arms. Then you have a connection. So you have up and out with your fingers, like you're trying to put blankets up onto a shelf. Pull yourself forward, sink. Then you have up and out, step forward, sink. Up and out, step forward, sink. Okay, I'm going to turn around. I had my right foot going forward. So when I turn around, I'm going to use my left foot so it gets a chance. So we have up, step forward, sink. I lead with my right foot all the time. Up and out left, step forward, sink. And you may notice your balance is not what you want it to be, which case means this is a great exercise to find that balance, step and sink. And finding the balance isn't that you have to try to stand there and find the balance. It's actually the engagement of your feet, top of the head and end of your fingers. So this would be pull, and that would find your balance in there. I fell into it, but what I was showing you there is this pulls you up, and then you have the ability, your weight is already where you want it to transfer. If you're seated in a chair doing this, then it would be, I also love doing this one. So it's going to go up, balls of the feet, and then sink. And if you have any tight muscles, it's usually obscure ones on the back of my leg, this will actually cause a little bit of a cramp. But after about the fourth or fifth one, the cramp will disappear. The muscle figures out it's too tight, and then it lets go. And sink. And you'll notice my palms are up for this one. And that's just engaging the pelvis in a particular action. Okay, so that would be the seated version of it. All right, we have another exercise that we do as part of the set where your palms go together, heels of the hands are together, and then flat. So not up, but flat. And if you put your feet shoulder width, not shoulder width, a little bit closer than shoulder width, you can rise up and then sink. Okay, I'm just going to see the comment there. Okay, old computer, cursor doesn't work. Oh yeah, yeah, wonderful. Okay, people, depending on how their mobility is, they will start to walk like this, where they walk on top of the ground instead of walking through the ground. And so any exercise that causes you to push with your feet, push with your toes, will completely transform walking. And all of a sudden, power comes back. There is no power in this. All the power is going down. It's not coming back out. And I see that a lot, particularly with seniors. Okay, so your feet are together. And then you have the palms together. And you rise up. And then come back down. Now, lots of people will do this and roll out. So you want to keep your ankles together on the inside, but the position of your hand flat and then pulling the heel of your hand forward actually gives you your balance, which is very cool. So it's up, sink, and in the set that we do it, we turn the hands and we put the foot back, which is what you learned today in the Toyu, was that little piece. So you have rise up, sink, push. If you wanted to put the sequence together. So we'll do one more. So we're up. That was the rhetorical, since I can't hear any of you. Step, push. Okay. This little exercise here for dancers, this changed, oh my gosh, changed so much about how I did a pirouette, which is a spin, knowing that the heel of my hand contributed to my balance. And as soon as I found that, then putting my hands wherever I needed to put them, I could immediately connect to the heel of the hand. And there was no problem with balance anymore. It just snuck in. So, okay. Yeah, thanks, Shannon. It is really a cool little piece. That's where the position of your hand changes the position of the pelvis, the shoulder, and the jaw. And we don't always realize how much contribution there can be in there. Okay, the last little piece, because I think this one's so invaluable, is I have done with you the foot exercises, which would be here. And I usually do them in the chair. I'm just showing you so you know. There is one part where we go ball, toe, over the top, toe, ball, heel. So I'll just do it on the other side so you can just get a feel for how wonderful that feels going over the top of the foot, back and down. The tops of the toes open up 5 energy lines. So if there's no mobility in the tops of the toes, there can be a little bit of blockage there. So if you just take your foot up, let yourself go over wherever it's comfortable. Okay, everybody's different. And then you can take it back and down. And you want to make sure you go over the big toe so you don't roll to the outside. So it'd be the center. And you'll notice all the weight is going to the other leg. I'm keeping that very open so that there's flow of energy and support there. And this leg is just like a decorative leg. Okay, so you're not going to try to stand on it. If you're trying to do it seated, the best way to do it seated is to put your foot sideways on the chair. You're over the top of that toe and then just pull the foot, whoop, and the mat up to where it's comfortable. And again, you're not trying to stress it in any way. It's just where it's comfortable. And you want to make sure your ankle is straight. Some people will do it like this. Some people will be here. So it's trying to get that foot to go flat. And if the foot doesn't want to go flat, that's telling you that ankle needs a little bit of time. And that could just be circles, Tai Chi. We have all of these beautiful positions that we do with the foot. And all of that is engaging the ankle to change the way it is. Okay, so to finish off, let's do this little exercise. This is beautiful. It's beautiful for the lower back, but you'd be very, very gentle with it. And you only need a couple. And the other is this opens all the lymph here. It's a beautiful one. Master Moy would always share this with anybody who had trouble with blockage in the center of the body. Hands go up, palms come down, sinking down into your feet, and just really relax into it. So you have palm to lower dantian, and that's getting the energy building. The index finger and the thumb are going to be making like a diamond. So the diamond starts, but then it turns. You know that's the hip changing position right there. Shoulders as well in the jaw. Then that diamond goes up towards the roof in the wall. And when it gets about as far as it can go and your lower back is nice and extended, you're just going to let everything soften. And again, I say, be very gentle with this one. From personal experience, trying to do too much, it's not too much movement before you can strain it, trying to get more out of it. It's a very soft and gentle approach. You're not trying to stretch at the top. You're trying to engage the hips, the shoulders, and the jaw to change position. So you're not trying to make your back longer or stretch it. Just be very gentle. And the action for the lymph is this starts to pump the lymph, particularly underneath the arms, in the chest. And then you have anything along the neck as well. Okay, let's just do one more. This is a lovely exercise, but it has to be very, very gentle. Awesome. Okay, so that gives you some of the secret pieces behind how to connect with nature, how to connect with a tree, the grass, just really be wrapping yourself in the frequency of the plants, and the Tai Chi is completely magnified by doing that. So I'm going to hang on. If you have questions, you're more than welcome to ask questions. You have comments, I'm happy for those. If someone can unpin me, then I'll be able to come into gallery view, and then I'll be able to see people. And thank you so much.